What's up, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about 4 of my favorite picks for the perfect everyday carry flashlight. And I tried to keep this somewhat diverse. I wanted to make sure that I really presented a couple of options that fit a good variety of needs, but all are reasonably affordable, extremely durable, extremely reliable, and I think can make a great complement to anybody's carry on a daily basis. So let's check them out. Keep in mind, I'm not specifically endorsing only these 4 lights. These happen to be the 4 that I have had the opportunity over about the last 6 months to really put some time in with, to carry a good bit, and to kind of get a real good feel for some ideas, some opportunities, some advantages, some disadvantages that these particular lights offer. So let's take a look at my 4 favorites, and I'm going to try to do this very quickly and just touch on kind of the real good and the real bad of each. And we're going to start off with the smallest of the group. This is made by Crimson Trace, who is best known for making their weapon lasers and weapon-mounted sighting systems. It's the smallest of the group and only takes one CR123 battery. It puts off 200 lumens on high. It also has a second mode with a low output, and it produces out 50 lumens there. It's a great light. You can get them on sale sometimes as cheap as $30, $35, but they retail for about $60 to $69 if you go through Crimson Trace. I love the pocket clip. I love that it can go in very small pockets, and it's virtually just, there's nothing to it. So even if I'm carrying my bigger light, this one definitely still goes with me in the opposite pockets. So it stays on my strong side, my gun side, and it's there in case, in my other hand, if I'm holding my daughter, or if I'm holding something and I can't get to it, then I have it as a backup, and it's there for just kind of the basic utilitarian needs. But a great light, very small, 3.5 inches, and you can't go wrong. But it can be the always with you light. Next up would be the Surefire G2x. This is Surefire made, which means automatically you're buying from pretty much the big daddy on the block. It's a great light. Their G2 series has been around forever. It's basically their entry-level series. Now we're on to the X, which is the latest iteration. This is got a polymer body, which was something that has been around for a while, but it is highly favored, especially by Canadian law enforcement, because the metal flashlights they found were incredibly painful if they got in that sub-zero temperatures. So they really put some input in with Surefire to design this particular light, and it's great, especially in cold weather. That polymer body keeps you from hurting your hand with cold metal. It's dual output, so on high you get 600 lumens, on low you get 15, so up to 52 hours of usage on low. It's a great light, puts off a lot of throw, up to about 180 meters. It's a little over 5 inches in length, so it's definitely something a little bit bigger. You can get the lanyard rings, similar to what you'll see here in a minute, for it. I'm just waiting for them to come back in stock personally. But it's something that's inexpensive enough that I can keep a couple of them around. I have one in the car, I keep one in my everyday carry bag, and then I keep one on the nightstand. But these are going to run you somewhere between $70 and $80, and they do come in different colors. Pretty cool thing. So that's the G2X. The next one would be what I'm using as my current everyday light, just kind of experimenting with, which is the Streamlight Protac Hlx. This is another multi-mode light. It actually has more than a few modes, and it has a programmable, what they call the 10-tap tail cap here. All made of metal, 2 CR123 batteries, great belt clip. You can run it bezel down or bezel up. I love it for keeping bezel down, and sits deep in the pocket, even as a bigger light. It is the largest with an 1.5 inch diameter bezel. It's 5.4 inches in length, and it is relatively heavy. But you can also get a rechargeable battery for this as well that gets a little more output. It does throw 1,000 lumens on high. On medium, throws out 400, and on low, throws out 65 lumens of light. And you accomplish that depending on how many times you tap the rear cap, depends on what mode it will go into. Because it's programmable, it has 3 different modes you can set it to run. In the factory standard mode, which is what it's on right now, this light with 1 tap will throw out 1,000 lumens on high, 2 taps will give you strobe, and 3 taps will give you low. As you just saw there, the multi-tap thing is not my favorite. You can also change the programming to where it's just going to run on high, or to where it will run low, medium, high, in that order, depending on the number of clicks you run. I am highly considering switching to just straight up high. I wish they had a high strobe and that was it, or high strobe and maybe medium, but Honestly, I don't care for the multi-programmable type caps. It's a little too soft. It tends to make it a little too easy to get the wrong mode. And as a defensive light, I'm not a big fan of that. But one touch, I can click it on and it stays on. The one thing I forgot to mention about the G2X, and I'm going to come back to it just real briefly, the difference between this and most of the other G2X models is that tail cap, and these two have the same basic functionality. I can press for momentary, or I can click them for constant on. And you can actually see, surprisingly, maybe a little different depending on the camera, but my god, that 1000 versus 600 lumens is noticeable. So that is something that I really like, and some of the things I'm just not as happy with the Streamlight. It is my current light right now because of its brightness, and if I get past the whole multi-mode thing, it's really a stellar light. I actually took some paracord and made a wrist strap for it that I just tied through the clip, just so I can, as you'll see with the Surefire, have that wrist retention that I like with our next light. So let's talk about that. This is my go-to everyday light. This is my favorite carry light. It is my definitive pick every day. This is Surefire's E2t Mv Tactician, the Mv standing for max vision, which is the type of light emitter that is on these. It puts off a very particular type of throw of light that's very even and very effective at illuminating as much as possible. So a couple things I really do like. I love that it is the smallest and the thinnest of the group here. It's 5 inches in length. It's 1 inch in diameter at its thickest, but it's stellar. It works every time you ask for it to work, which is something every flashlight pretty much does. But the biggest thing that has sold me on this versus a lot of the others is it completely does away with my dislike for dual mode lights that rely on the tail cap to set the mode. This one sets the mode, the brightness, by the bezel. So like as it is right now, I have it in maximum output, which is 800 lumens, a quarter turn on the bezel, and now I'm in low, which is 5 lumens, and gives me 95 hours of battery. To me, that's stellar. That makes this the most versatile light in the group, because I can use this as a utility light for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and still have plenty of light to go. But yet I can crank that up, so when it's in my pocket, it's set to high. I drop this in my offhand pocket with the wrist strap out, and I can yank it and go. So the couple of the other things that really just this light excels at is as a defensive light. It's perfect as a strike tool. It has enough length and mass that if it had to be used as an impact weapon, it could in self-defense. It is equipped with a wrist strap, a retention strap, right out of the box. It comes included. And as a defensive firearms user, and as somebody who has taught defensive firearms in the past, even on a limited scale, one thing that I have always believed is that as a defensive light, you should always have one with you to start with. But even though you may have a light on your firearm, you should never use that to identify a threat. If I have a light on my handgun, I'm not going to go looking around with that light. I'm not going to point that gun at anything I don't intend to shoot. So I do need a good light, which is why I carry one. However, in the event that I had to employ that firearm, well, what do you do with that light that's in your hand? Do you just drop it? No, of course not. That's where this strap is perfect, because I can just toss it, I can just let go, drop it, and it will still be attached to me so I can retrieve it later easily. But also, if I were to get knocked to the ground, it keeps it from being lost in the fray and allows me to bring it back into the fold, and if I need to use it as a strike tool, I could. More simply put, even if I'm on the side of the road changing a tire, if I needed to use both hands, well, I can still let go of that light, but it doesn't disappear into the ether of the darkness and crap on the ground. So I really appreciate that Surefire worked with defensive firearms instructors to design this light from the get-go. The things that I'm not as fond of, but being that it is small, it's light, it's versatile, this is by far and away my favorite. Unfortunately, it also comes with the biggest price tag at about $170 to $180. Now this is another one you can use the dual fuel system. You can toss in a rechargeable battery, something I'm going to do with this one, just like I do with my scout light on my AR. But it's a great light. I highly suggest looking into one of the 4 of these. They're all fantastic. They all have some things that they do extremely well. They all have things that maybe they don't do quite as well, but you're never going to find one that's perfect. But these are all great ones to look at. I highly suggest that you take the opportunity to think about what do you have in your carry, and are you using just something you picked up at AutoZone, or are you thinking about using it as a purpose-built tool? So appreciate it, guys. Take it easy. Take care of each other. See ya.